And that's what I thought. And you said the other trick. Okay, this past district governor, I don't really have to introduce him because he's like our very favorite next to Joe. And he was district governor during Bill Rhodes's regime in 08 and 09. He became a Rotarian in 1986. And he's a member of the Churchland Rotary Club, and he was head of the district, or chair of the district foundation from 2010 to 2013. As far as his day job goes, he is a commercial banker, and we do not hold that against you, Bill. And he is going to tell us now just how we fit into the grand world of Rotary. Take it away.
Always great to be here. I was here a few weeks ago when we had the AAU speak about the AAU Junior Olympics, and my daughter couldn't run because she had a foot injury, but she was one of 3 local athletes to get a $500 scholarship from the Hampton Road Sports Commission. So that was exciting. They would participate in it.
It's already zoomed out. Just move it.
Well, y'all got a little bit going on in the club. You know, y'all do so much great stuff. You know, Rotary is a pretty complex organization, and even, you know, I learn things every day. I bet you Joe still learns new stuff about Rotary. But the heart of Rotary is individual Rotary clubs. It's not the president, Ravi, you know, it's not our trustees, it's the Hampton Roads Club and its members in this club that makes Rotary such an amazing organization it is. You want hands-on projects. But I thought I'd go a little bit history and how does this club fit into the world of Rotary. So you were chartered in February 21st, 1980. Your official name is the Rotary Club of Hampton Roads, parentheses, Norfolk, Virginia. And Paul Peters, your president this year. And so I guess you're still in Norfolk in this location.
Back in Norfolk.
Actually, back to Norfolk.
Back in Norfolk. So next, you know, Rotary was formed in 1905 by Paul Harris. He was a young attorney, had grown up in the Northeast, moved to Chicago, didn't have many friends, which isn't an uncommon problem for attorneys.
New members accepted.
And so he said, I need some business and I need to make some friends. So he got together with his buddies, Gus, who was a mining engineer, Sylvester, a coal dealer, Hiram, a merchant tailor, and they got together and decided to form this group really initially for networking and fellowship. So the first meeting was on February 23rd, 1905, and they met in Gus's office at 711 of the Unity Building in downtown Chicago. You know, Gus didn't stick around very long, and Sylvester was actually the first president of the Chicago Club. It wasn't Paul Harris. The second meeting was March 9th. They had 3 other men join. That's when they started doing name badges. They started singing. And that's how they started the name with Rotary. As you know, they rotated amongst members' locations, and that's when they came up with the original principle that we wanted one banker, one insurance agent, one attorney, and so on. Well, as the club grew, they couldn't rotate anymore, and that's when they came up with the tradition of meeting at the Springfield Inn or the Holiday Inn that had the common location for a meal. So the first club, it was formed in 1905 and was originally fellowship and networking. Then they realized, you know, we're leaders in the community, we have resources, and maybe we should help do stuff in the community. And that's when Rotary really became a service organization. So in 1907, they had their first service project. Does anyone know what that first project was?
Installed it.
Toilets downtown.
Toilets in downtown Chicago.
Can we interrupt for an important announcement?
One of the wait staff came in the back door and said there's a BMW station wagon with the rear lit up, parked outside the door, and she said she saw computers in there, and she's just concerned it might be one of us parked out there.
It was a hotel guest. I saw him get out of the car. I assumed he was walking
Okay,
back
all
out.
right, but thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Dave.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. If it was a 2004 Honda Odyssey van, I would have been going out there. So that was the first service project. I don't know if that bathroom is still used in downtown Chicago, but that was the first service project. So in 1908, the club, in 1908 the club expanded, and y'all know where the second club was? San Francisco. So it went out west first, and it went to San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, Seattle, and then New York was when the first time we went to the East Coast. The first convention was held in Chicago in 1910, and it was called the National Association of Rotary Clubs, and they had 16 member clubs, and Paul Harris was the first president of the National Association of Rotary Clubs. You know, the first club chartered outside the United States. Any guesses?
Atlanta.
Outside the United States. Winnipeg, Canada. It was organized in 1910, chartered in 1912. The first club outside of North America was London. And then the first non-English speaking club. It sort of was. Cuba was the first, and you think about, and Joe, you might know, I'm sure there are talks about maybe taking Rotary back to Cuba with what's happened. That was the first non-English speaking club. In 1912, because we become international, the name was changed to the International Association of Rotary Clubs, and Rotary International was formed in 1922. In 1917, Arch Klump formed an endowment for doing the good in the world, and that was the start of the Rotary Foundation. The first contribution to the Rotary Foundation was $26.50 from the Kansas City Club at the convention. Today, Rotarians give over $120 million a year, not including polio, to the Rotary Foundation. In 1929, the foundation made its first gift, its first grant. It was a $500 grant to the International Society for Crippled Children, formed by Rotarian Edgar Daddy Allen, which became Easter Seals. So what's ironic, what was Easter Seals known for in the early days?
Polio.
Polio. And our first grant was $500 to help polio. And today, you know, we're this close to eradicating polio. A few other key dates. 1943 was the adoption of the four-way test by Rotarian Herb Taylor, who was president in 54-55. In 1945, 49 Rotarians helped draft the United Nations Charter, and many of the delegates were from Rotary clubs around the world. In 1947, Paul Harris dies. We get tons of money, starts coming to the foundation. In 1985, we started Polio Plus, which was started from a Rotary 3H grant in 1997 to the Philippines to eradicate polio. 1987 was a huge time in Rotary. Anyone know what happened in 1987? Women were allowed to join the Rotary Club. And in 2008, Bill Gates gave us the first $100 million. He eventually gave us $355 million. He continues to match us $35 million a year. Rotary matched that $355 million with $200 million to help eradicate polio. That first $100 million, Bill's father was a Rotarian, honorary Rotarian. That's how all this started. That first $100 million was wired to us before we even had a written agreement with Bill Gates. And he said, use my money first. Someone told me that it ended up being a 2-page agreement. And again, how many attorneys will let a client give someone $100 million with a 2-page agreement? So Bill Gates knew about our ethics, what we stood for. They made Bill Gates an honorary member of the Seattle Club a few years ago. And you know what the benefit is of being an honorary member? You don't have to pay dues. So he gets a financial break. That's a little bit of our history. In Virginia, Rotary started in 1913 with the Richmond Club was chartered. And then after Richmond was Norfolk, Steve, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Newport News will have their 100th anniversary in 2016. And then Petersburg will follow Newport News in 2017. Now, Petersburg's the club I started. My mom's going to be president of the Petersburg Club when they turn 100. She'll be 80 years old to be a Rotary Club president, and so that's pretty exciting. And then, you can't see here, but we have 64 clubs, and all of us was chartered by someone else from Richmond, Norfolk, and on. I think Portsmouth would be the 5th club, and so that's how we've grown. in our district. Go ahead. Today there are 1.2 million Rotarians. We have 34,000 clubs in the world, and we're over 200 countries. And these clubs are broken into districts, and I think there are today 537 districts. It changes, but that's how Rotary is organized. You know, a district is a geographical area. In our district, 7,600, as you probably know, includes 64 clubs, 63 to 64. We're getting ready to form a new club in Ashland, Virginia. And I think it might be 63 because Princess Anne and Northside Norfolk just joined last year to become the Town Center Club, which took one off the books. But we're forming a new club in Ashland. So we have clubs in Richmond Market, Hampton Roads. We go to the Eastern Shore, and we go southwest to South Boston, and as far north as Richmond, as far west as Fluvanna. So about 2,900 Rotarians. Some districts might have 40 to 30 clubs. Some districts might have 80 clubs. We're probably a little bit on the bigger side. Our average club size is about 45, 50 members. Norfolk is the largest with 150 members. Each district is led by a district governor who's an official officer of Rotary International. Again, there are two other districts in Virginia. 7570 is to the western part, Roanoke, then goes up to Front Royal, Winchester, and then 7610 is Northern Virginia, Charlottesville, and the Northern Neck. We have a governor. Again, the governor is an official officer of Rotary for the year. Any past president can put his or her name in to be a governor. You have to serve as a president. I think he had to be a Rotarian for 7 years. So it's a nominating process. So you get your club to nominate you. We form a committee. Hopefully we have a few candidates we interview. Hopefully take the best candidate. And it's pretty much a 3-year process before you become governor. You go through some training. The few months before you become governor, you go to San Diego, to what's called the International Assembly, and you spend a week training with 530 governors from all over the world, or governor-elects. You might be sitting with someone from England, Alaska, Russia, South America. It's an amazing experience, and Joe's actually has been a trainer there. So if you have a lot of money to throw away and a lot of extra time in your hand, I highly recommend doing the job. And Gary is doing a good job using the James City Club and his classification in industrial marketing. He joined in 1996. I joined in 1986, and I served in 08, 09. A great experience. Our incoming governor next year, Diane Hagman with the Virginia Peninsula Club, and then following Diane will be John Padgett with the Norfolk Club. They'll both do outstanding jobs, and hopefully if you haven't met them, you will. And again, the whole role as a district governor is just to support club presidents, help clubs with anything they might need, and really to be a cheerleader and say a lot of thank yous, and and give a little bit of leadership. We have a district office. We rent in a building in Williamsburg that we share with other nonprofits. We have some conference rooms. So if you ever need a meeting in Williamsburg, which is like pretty much our central part of our district, we have conference rooms you can use. We have assembly room. We have a district secretary named Mary Ann, and I think she works from 9 to 1 every day. So it's really turned out to be a nice facility. For years we were in Virginia Beach on Wichita Road, but really that wasn't centrally located. It was great with some of us on Hampton Roads, but this has really worked much better for the district. Go ahead. We put on some events, a district conference we have coming up on October 3rd and 4th in Williamsburg at Fort Magruder Inn. Our presidents for each conference, the Rotary president can't come to 530 conferences, so he elects a representative to go and represent him. Now, you could be unlucky and get someone like me or Joe, or you could get John Hugo, the General Secretary of Rotary International, and John Hugo is going to be our representative at our conference. So this is a great chance to hear from the from the CEO of Rotary International. He'll be speaking Saturday night. So I encourage you, if you want to hear what's going on in Rotary, come listen to John. Then we put an assembly on. We do training for presidents. We do training for for district officers, a whole bunch of stuff. And I enjoy these because it's a good chance to enjoy fellowship with fellow Rotarians. So So how do a Rotary district fit in? Well, there are 537 districts today. There are 34 zones in the world, and each zone includes about 15 to 16 districts, about 35,000 Rotarians. So the 34 zones, District 7600 is in Zone 33 with Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. We have 16 districts, I think, Joe, and 33. Go ahead. We're paired with Zone 34, next one. 34 is Georgia, Florida, and Puerto Rico, and the South and Northern Caribbean islands. And so we're paired for them. And why are we paired? Go ahead. Well, the Rotary has 17 directors on the board of Rotary International, and each director represents 2 zones. So that's why you have 34 zones. Each director represents 2 zones. You have 17 directors. That director alternates, and a director serves a 2-year term. So for 2 years, we'll have a director come from Zone 33, and then they'll come from 34, then 33. So that's how you get representation. The United States has 5 to 6 directors. We used to have more directors. How come we don't have as many directors on the board anymore?
Don't have as many members.
Because the membership has grown internationally, and they rebalance this every 10 or 8 years. So there's not as many Rotarians in North America as there used to be, so we have less representation on the board, which is fine because we are an international organization. Go ahead. So there are 19 members, 17 directors, the president and a president-elect, the general secretary who's paid and operates day-to-day activities, and then 14, 15 last year, you can see where all our directors from all over the world because they're representing Rotary. This is last year's board. With Gary Long was our president. This year is President Robbie. Go ahead. Our director this year is Robert Hall. He's from Georgia. Atlanta, great guy. He was IBM, and now he's an executive recruiter for the nonprofit agency. And to become a director is also a self-appointed position, more or less. Any past district governor can put his or her name in to be considered to be a director. And there's a nominating committee, and they go through an interview process, and then they select a director. So any past president can put his or her name and be a governor, and any past governor can put his or her name in to be a director. So Robert is in the 2nd year of a 2-year term. Go ahead. Ann Matthews was before him. She was our last director from 33. Ann's a dear friend, and she was the first female vice president of Rotary. At some point, we're going to have a female president.
Yay.
But you have to go through the processes because you have to be a governor, you have to be a director, things you have to do. Go ahead. Now,
Oh my God.
this is a picture from Joe when he joined Rotary in 1984. We haven't changed much. So Joe, as you know, is going to be our director next year for 2 years. And Joe went through the same process. He was a Rotarian, he was a president, a governor, outstanding governor, foundation chair. This is a big deal. Joe's going to be one of 17 Rotarians in the world to serve on our board.
Did Joe have anybody to run against?
That's confidential information. So, Joe was the first Rotarian from 7600 from our current boundaries, because we used to be, cover a big area of the state, but Joe's the first Rotarian from our current boundaries to serve on the board since the mid-50s. There was a Rotarian named Claude, I think it was Woodward, and he was the mayor of Richmond, actually served as vice president. So Joe's the first one from 7600 since the mid-50s. So Joe, looking forward to, I know this club's going to support you, and he's given up a lot of time, and he's given up a lot of money to do this.
So what does that mean he's going to do? Visit all the clubs, or are we going to see him next year?
You won't see him. He'll go to, they have 4 meetings a year at least. He'll go to zone institutes. He'll go to other, they'll be invited to go speak at other Rotary districts, maybe throughout the world. So he'll be a busy man for 2 years. So, okay, go ahead. The president is Ravi Dixie, the first one from Sri Lanka. You know, to become president, any past director can put his or her name into a hat, and there's a nominating committee process. So again, it's sort of a self-appointed process. The RI presidents pretty much spends 2 years of their lives traveling the world. They move, we're headquartered in Chicago, they moved to Evanston. We own 2 condos. And when you become RI president-elect, you move to Chicago, Evanston, and you spend 2 years traveling the world. And this isn't a paid position. This is a volunteer position. So you give up at least 2 years of your life being a cheerleader for Rotary. Robbie's very successful, has a heat packaging business, and go ahead. Next year, our president will be John Jern from Tennessee. Go ahead. I just want to show you that I'm actually taller than some past RI presidents, but I've had a chance to meet a bunch of them, and it's pretty neat. You know, these guys are just like, they're everyday Rotarians. And go ahead. These are the past presidents. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to point out one. This is Bill Sargent, who served, I think, in 84, 85. How many Hokies in there?
Oh, okay.
Well, Bill Sargent worked for Virginia Tech for over 40 years. He was involved with 4-H. And some people say he was one of the most influential presidents of Rotary. All these guys would consult with him for advice and stuff. Now, Bill died a few years ago, and there's another, and he grew up in Dinwiddie in District 7600, went to Virginia Tech. There's another Rotarian named Bill Sargent, who was vice president, who grew up in Richmond, also went to Virginia Tech, could have become president, but he didn't want to, and he led our first Polio Plus chair. And they say Bill Sargent was as much influence on what we're doing in polio than any other Rotarian. So what's my point? It's really taken 2 Hokies to get things done in Rotary. We have a theme every year. This is our theme, Be a Gift to the World. The president selects it. Go ahead. These are a bunch of the past themes. If you remember when you were president, what your theme was. This was the year I was governor. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm going to go through some of these quick. Yeah, I know you're confused. You were confused where I started. Go ahead. We have a foundation I've talked about, started, and I don't need to talk about the foundation of this club. Y'all do a great job. We have the foundation is a separate entity, a 501c3, and we have 15 trustees. They serve a 4-year term, and they're appointed by the directors of Rotary. So that's the tie-in. It's 2 separate entities, and they're appointed. And the trustee is typically, not always, but almost, the trustee chair is typically a past RI president. Go ahead. You know, our mission statement, I like to say it's Rotarians, we provide service. Go ahead. The foundation enables us. The foundation gives us the resources to provide that service. Go ahead. I've already talked about polio. You know, every Rotarian every year. This club does a great job of supporting the foundation. We're headquartered in Evanston. If you ever go to Chicago, Evanston is about 45 minutes in some direction. And go and visit Rotary headquarters. They'll show you a great time. It's really neat. Anyone who's ever been to Rotary headquarters?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Rotary employs 400 people. 40 different languages are spoken. We work 24 hours a day because we got 7 service centers in the world. Go ahead. We have a General Secretary, John Hugo. Ed Fuda came to our district conference a few years ago in Richmond. John Hugo found out about the job because his dad's Rotarian. He was with the world's largest law firm. He's worked in South America and in Ukraine. And he read the Rotarian magazine, and we were looking for a job, and that's how we found out about it. So read your Rotarian magazine. Go ahead. Almost done. You know, we have 9 official languages. Our revenues over 63 million. Foundation contributions of 260 million. Go ahead. International conventions. How many of y'all been in a national convention? Atlanta, 2017. Would be a great opportunity without having to spend a lot of money flying somewhere. Go ahead. We have a website. Rotarian magazine we all get. Facebook, Twitter. We're on social media now. We're trying to get the word out. Go ahead. The council legislation is where we make legislative changes. We meet every 3 years. Joe's done it. I did a few years ago. You have 530 Rotarians who spend a week in Chicago listening to changes to the constitutional documents. Go ahead. So why do you join Rotary? We all have a different reason, for fellowship, for service, for networking. To me, it's been a life-changing experience. The people I've met through Rotary have been instrumental in shaping my career and my friendships. You know, it's a great organization because of you and what you do for Rotarian. So always remember that every one of you play a big role in the success of Rotary International. So thank you, and thank you for all you do for Rotary.
Stay up here. Joe?
Just an extra tidbit of information that what Bill touched on. When he talked about Cuba, the past president, Luis G.I. from Argentina, and one of the past director are currently charged with looking into bringing Cuba back into Rotary. It's significant as far as I'm concerned, because where is it going to end up in? Zone 34 in the Caribbean, so it'll be part of our two zones. Now, I was sort of anticipating him to be more crass than he was. And he doesn't really get up early enough in the morning for an old guy like me. So I have a 6-7 picture display, if we can,
If I can find it.
should be, it just says Pollard, I think.
Well, I need to get to the,
Oh, okay. This, I know we're going over our time, but this may or may not be worth it.
Go to computer.
There we go, Pollard slideshow.
Is this finable?
This is final. Yeah.
Oh. Such
So
cute
you're,
kids.
This is the mystery Rotarian.
Thank you. I don't know how he gets this stuff.
Bill, you got one last job to do.
That's his wife, by any chance, the better part of the family on the lady on the right, our right.
Pulling the pink ticket, and what I want you to do is read one of these 3 numbers, please.
Last four, 0232.
That's the wrong one.
232, right here.
0232.
Ladies and gentlemen, be a gift to the world. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.